small batteries. Do you know anything about those?
I know a little, and
Oh, that's good. I got you.
Is that good?
I saw you going there. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Welcome to I Like Batteries, the show where we explore the world of batteries. I'm Mike Muldoon.
And I'm Jeff Lynch. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jeff. It's good. We got a good morning trend here that is good. We've got some sun today. It's become a little rainy in terms of I always feel like
it's not sunny here, man.
Well, it's overcast.
Yeah.
There's sun. The sun is out. Yeah.
Is it? How long are the days now?
Oh boy, I don't know. They're the same. They're the same.
Hey?
All the time.
You got it.
That's the answer. Yes,
You're on it this morning.
I am. Caffeine is flowing. We're good. The batteries are fully charged, at least 80%. Good sleep. That's important in order for the body. I think that's...
I got 7 hours last night.
That's good.
I'd like 9, though.
You like 9? Wow. Okay. I don't think we've ever talked about this during the show, but I mean, that's good. And for our listeners, welcome to the Sleep Show. No. So sorry. No, we talk about these things. I mean, humans and batteries. I mean, they go together for sure. I talk about that a lot to my patients as we're going through the day. How's their charge? And if they don't get a lot of sleep, we've talked about that. We're doing exercise. We're trying to rehab them, and sometimes that truly affects their ability to rehabilitate. I said, listen, your whatever joint we're working on is affected by your overall recovery rate, and I think recovering and recharging is important. So I think that's
so
good.
Many parallels. Yeah,
it's very good. Yeah, well, that's the nice part about this. So hopefully you enjoy the show, and for our new listeners, welcome to I Like Batteries. We do talk about batteries here, and we are going to get into batteries.
We'll get there eventually
today. But I do want to talk about something that came in the mail that I purchased. And this relates to a show we did a couple times ago, a little bit about what solar angles. And that, if you're looking, folks, that's episode 210. So if you want to go back to 210, we talked about the angles. And just to review for you, and what angle we're talking about is, what angle would you have your solar panel at in order that you maximized how much solar you're going to have for the best solar angle? For myself, it's 42.93, and for Jeff, it's 43.83 in terms of what you would need. And what this is, it's a little, I'll describe it for you because clearly you can't see it since this is a podcast, it's audio. It's a little, I guess I would say, solar device made by EcoFlow. I purchased this off eBay. They were having a discount on some of the things. It was $10.83 for this. And what it does is you clip it onto your solar panel to get the angle. And there's a little dot that would essentially represent the shadow of the sun. The important part is not only do we get the angle that we have in terms of up and down, but the tilt and yaw, I think, is in there too, to make sure that as the sun moves through the day, if it's southern facing, you could move your panel appropriately to make sure you're getting maximum amount. And I kind of like this because I do have a 160 watt EcoFlow panel that I do essentially, it's by the battery shed. It's in the back yard, and oftentimes I will on a weekend have it just sit on a chair, and I'm kind of moving the chair in terms of what I think is the right amount, but I'm not 100% sure. So this will get me to have higher accuracy, and I'll see if that means higher wattage to charge my batteries. So
exactly. No, it's amazing. Yeah. It reminds me of a bubble level, but there's no liquid inside of it. It's just a plastic shell with a dot on it and concentric rings that have basically the angle off of zero, right? Isn't that pretty much how it is?
Oh, completely. No, that's exactly what it is. And I think just getting a little bit more accuracy, getting a couple watts extra, a little bit. It's like getting a little bit more sleep. You see where we're going there?
I do.
Yep, going a little bit of that. And here's the important part. If you wanted to charge your batteries, this is excellent. But the other thing is, did you realize that if you got a large enough battery, the federal government will actually give you a tax credit?
Yes, this is good news. So the IRS has the residential clean energy credit, and Mike and I did some digging into this form because it's not super evident in the docs on the website. So you actually have to download the form and read the instructions. It's a minimum of 3 kilowatt hours.
Correct.
So to get a credit for residential home battery storage, and this also includes geothermal heat pumps, regular heat pumps, hot water heat pumps, wind. We have to look up what the wind requirements are. That might be interesting too.
Sure.
But yeah, so minimum of 3 kilowatt hours will sort of trigger your ability to get a tax credit for home battery storage.
Yeah. And so this actually, CBS Essentials, which is from CBS News, had an article. The IRS will pay you to install a home battery with this clean energy credit. Clearly, that's a headline because they're not actually paying you. I don't think so. Like, you can't charge your rate and then install it. But we're referring to, and we've talked about these batteries, whether it's EcoFlow, there's a couple other ones. And right now on that website, they have the Blue Eddy power station, the AC500 and B300S would qualify. They're saying on Amazon it's $4,799. The Anker Solix F3800 expansion battery. Interesting enough, if you're reading that, it says expansion batter. So clearly the typo on there.
Typo. Unless they were really, making pancakes or something.
Right. Maybe you can with that one. I'm not familiar with that unit enough.
Expanding pancake battery.
Our friends, as we know, at EcoFlow, the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra, which is newer, they've come out. I wonder if the Delta Pro 2 will do that, because that's pretty cool. That one they're saying $7,499, and
that
then
one includes the home panel as well.
Yeah, so that's the smart home panel, just in case you're wondering, in terms of that. And then finally, the Goal Zero Yeti Pro 4000 portable power station. The nice thing, and that's $11,000 at Amazon, but I have a feeling looking at that, they decked it out, because that's a 20,000 watt hour system. So that's 20 kilowatt hours. Yeah, 20 kilowatt hours.
20 kilowatt hours. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's pretty big. They're 10 Haven tank.
And they call it portable. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, you can move it because you can take the individual pieces, but
yeah. And that has their smart panel as well. So I think you can have different things. What Jeff and I are going to make a follow up on is kind of finding. We like to be price conscious in terms of how much dollars per watt hours we look at, but it's also figuring out how do you get something that's maybe just 3,000 watt hours, so you get that credit. And then what happens is you can scale up, right? Because a lot of times these things, you may not need this much energy storage when you really look at it. And we've talked about that so many times. Yeah. People think they need so much power storage when they don't. I mean, since the inception of this show, whether I'm out in the shed or if I'm down here in the basement studio, I mean, I'm on batteries 100%. I mean, I'm on my EcoFlow, my quote-unquote old EcoFlow River, that's here. Original, and I've got my power packs. In fact, my daughter head off to college. That was one of our discussion points. Was okay. Which power packs do you want? Here's the ones. In fact, you'd be happy to know the Rav Power one that I gave her for college.
Oh, that's a perfect one. That's
it is good.
Nice.
It's got the percentage.
Does she have a MacBook Air?
She does. Yeah. So you got the M1 MacBook Air. So it's like perfect for an M1 MacBook Air, right? So I was like, look. You can charge it off of that. You've got that. But also, I mean, if you're charging your cell phone, you're going to get tons of, I'm not sure how many, but she's going to get quite a few charges off of that.
Oh, yeah.
I would think at least two, maybe three. In fact, she's going camping, so it's good to have that. So, but I think you have to understand how much power and what your needs are. But these are big batteries, for sure, Jeff. But what's super interesting to me is, what about really small batteries? Do you know anything about those?
I know a little, and...
Oh, that's good.
I got you. Is that good?
Yeah. I saw you going there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So news out of MIT.
Local news, we'd say.
Local news, yes. Yeah. MIT, sort of, New England local.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not quite as local to them anymore. Although sometimes I am, I suppose.
Yeah.
Go to Boston Thursday night. So anyway. So these batteries that some MIT engineers have designed are really tiny. So they are like grain of sand sized
batteries,
tiny. Which is hard to fathom at some level. And it's a zinc-air battery. And the idea is that these can basically start to power or robots being built around them or various other applications.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think what to me is interesting about these ones is that they have a lot of applications for healthcare, in terms of, we've been talking about small robots in the body and doing things, even if it's something for somebody's, say, pacemaker or whatnot that's there. They're saying they can power up to with a potential of up to 1 volt. And we've heard about these type of batteries in terms of battery chemistry. I think we've talked about zinc-air batteries on the show before, but they're saying some of these robots can have a little arm that they're able to do. They also have the ability for these small robots to get in spaces that you couldn't access. And so you might even have these not inside the body, but inside some other places that you're trying to get to. The funny part is, I said to Jeff in pre-show, this reminds me if you've ever seen the Disney movie Big Hero 6, where he kind of comes up with a thing and they're all little balls and he gets them to be able to do. The funny part is they never talked about how he powered those things, but I gotta think each of those little things had a battery. But like, how did he charge them? And I know it's just a show. I'm getting too but it's like he seemed to use them for a really long time, and no one ever came to the concept of when the quote unquote evil person got it and kind of got hold of the technology, right? That's like, well, you could just like not get rid of them. You could just use up all the power. And
Mike and I might not be the most fun companions watching Big Hero 6.
No, we're overanalyzing
and charging the whole time.
I've watched it so many times with my kids. I love the movie. In fact, sometimes I'll just watch it with the kids as well, because it's a good movie. It has a technology part of it. Obviously, there's some pieces. I actually, funny side note, when we went to Disney, I would say 2019. The robot that's in there was actually there. The character was there at Disney when we went. It was actually in Epcot, because I think it was.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
More technology based. Yeah, and I went and got my picture. So.
Very nice.
The kids didn't want to go, but I got it.
Was Big Hero? Was it? What is as squishy as you imagined?
It was inflated, so I didn't really squeeze it too much. It felt like wrong. I just kind of stood beside it and took a picture of it. No, but there was an inflated suit that obviously a person was inside of. Did you hear the fan, or was the fan quiet enough that you didn't hear the fan like inflating the suit? I don't remember the fan. There was music in the background, so they were trying to make the experience.
Yeah, because there's probably batteries involved there too.
There probably was too. I was probably one of the older people that were there that didn't have a child with me, but that's okay. I was like, the child inside of me was happy, and I think that's what Disney is about. And so there we go. This was not in pre-show. We went down this rabbit hole for sure. But
Mike and I wish you a magical day.
Yeah, we do. We do. Hope you stay fully charged and have a magical day as well. I think this technology is awesome. I think there's a lot of ways that it can help people, and I think batteries helping people is good. And one of the ways that we were saying with the Big Hero 6 was the robotic swarms is what they said. This could be something that they designed for robots that could be injected in the human body, seek to target out a site, and then release a drug such as insulin from the human body. This is awesome. Maybe someday, in terms of like helping to fight cancers and really targeting certain cells that are bad behaviors in the body, this could really help. And so I find this super interesting. So the research was funded by the U.S. Army Research Office and the U.S. Department of Energy, the National Science Foundation, and MathWorks Engineering Fellowship. So good luck to these engineers. I mean, we'll try the good old reach out to these folks and get them on. I think that'd be super interesting. And in terms of, we said it's the grain of sand. They said the zinc-air battery is 0.1 millimeters long and 0.002 millimeters thick, in case you really wanted to get specific on the show about the size of this battery.
Yeah, roughly thickness of a human hair kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is crazy. And just one little technical thing.
Sure.
We said they were zinc-air batteries, and what that means is they capture oxygen from the air and use it to oxidize zinc, and that's where the energy potential difference comes in, which is basically how batteries work. Right.
No, and that's important note from that. And I think getting deeper into this makes me think of if they're smaller, and how much heat is dispersion and what happens. But that's all the pieces we think of batteries. How many charge cycles would you get out of this, or is this single use? All these things come to mind. But that's what's fun about I like batteries. We like batteries, and we like to ask these questions. But what also is important in the human body, and we use this, I use it more for treatment, but you use this to be able to do diagnostically looking at the human body. It's ultrasound. Oh, you have something else?
I just did a quick search.
You did a search. This is good. Do those. Yeah.
Well, because we just asked the question, so we might as well answer the question as quickly as possible. And zinc-air batteries are typically single use.
There you go. Okay.
So just
That would make so yeah. Well, so it's not rechargeable when we think about this.
typically,
ability.
I mean, maybe some of them are, or maybe there's, maybe you put 2 grains.
That's some sadness. These little things do their job, and then they're done. So, but you have to put. How do you put that battery into the thing? Like, is that with tweezers? Sorry, but that's what makes our show great.
Don't work on carpet because you never.
I think I stepped on one of the batteries. When you do that, I think this happens in a lab. I'm pretty sure this happens in a lab. Maybe this
you think so?
Yeah. I'm thinking so. Yeah. But where you could see some of these things is with ultrasound, because ultrasound, you're able to look at some things inside the body. But
speaking of labs, there
is a lab, and there's a lab that we have actually had the pleasure of being to this lab. And what I'm talking about is our friends at Titan Advanced Energy Systems, so Titan AES. So we had been down to Titan's world headquarters, which is in Salem, Massachusetts. We were actually able to get Sean, who's the CEO, on the show for 2 episodes when we had it. But they had an article or something they had put out in LinkedIn that caught my eye, because I do follow them on LinkedIn. And if you want to, you can do that as well. Super interesting company, about the fact, and this was amazing to me, Jeff. I did not realize in manufacturing that when a battery company is starting up, they can have a scrap rate hitting as high as 90%. And what scrap rate means is like just getting rid of the battery.
Yeah, the batteries just aren't up to snuff, basically. So, yeah, the yield out of it is like 10% potentially as they ramp up, which no wonder they're so expensive, right? You're spending all this time and energy and resource to make something you can't use.
No,
I assume they recycle them, but.
Yeah, well, I would hope they did, right? That's something hopefully that they're doing and they're trying to get, and you're trying to see this actually happen. And in case you're wondering, it's episode 84 all the way back in For I Like Batteries. We did interview Sean. 84 and 85 was the episodes.
Nice. That would have been year 2.
That would have been year 2. Yeah. So we went down there and had a great interview. Super entrepreneur and where he came from. So if you're interested in like who is Sean Murphy from Titan Advanced Energy Systems, go listen to episode 84 of I Like Batteries for that. But what I'm talking about, what they do, they had something I think was their code name, the Scorpion or something back there, and he actually showed us how they were using. They were batteries that they had pulled out of, and I remember this now actually, the batteries that they had pulled out of the Nissans. I think. Yeah,
Nissan Leaf.
Nissan Leaf
battery modules. So they had taken the individual modules out of the pack, I guess, and they were, I don't know, I think they were sort of like dinner plate sized, like
I would say like hard drives,
maybe a couple inches thick. Right, but they basically put them under this device, and they are running current through the battery, and they then blast it with their ultrasound. And I seem to recall that it didn't take more than 15 or 20 seconds or something.
It was pretty quick. Yeah. And so right now they have something called IonSight. And I think IonSight might be the whole technology, right, that they have.
The whole system together, yes.
Yeah. I mean, back when we saw them, they've advanced, Titan Advanced Energy Systems, right, which is a great name for what they're doing, is that they were in this module, in this stage of analyzing the batteries, gathering as much data as they could about them, like what happens, how this is. And then they jumped to this analytics platform that now they have, that you can look at this, what they call a cell handling system and AI-based analytics, which is not surprising, right? Specifically for battery production. And we had talked with Sergio when he was on the show about that, and how battery production, we think about manufacturing the battery and the whole process and getting good cells to move forward. We've talked about even just how the mineral itself of lithium can be coming out in terms of mangrove lithium and how they look at that process. So I think this is really the future of safety. And Sean spoke about that in terms of
we did
protecting against thermal runways. And you see this come out in the news a lot, like, oh, this happened with this happened with a lot of times what's coming out in the news with battery fires, honestly, it's poorly made batteries, right? Like quote unquote knockoff batteries that are put into the whatever. It could be an e-bike, it could be this. And with the prevalence of e-bikes, the scooters, all this, yeah, I think unfortunately you are going to see more fires in things that are not made well, that aren't taking the time to inspect the quality that's going into this battery. And you have some cellular plating, you have some different things, of which I wanted to point out, and I don't know if we had said that their website has a great explanation of some of this. So if you were
do you
want to break that down?
Go down. Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, basically, they describe very well the problem with legacy BMS, or battery management systems. So typically, a BMS will use a combination of voltage, current, and temperature to basically estimate state of charge and state of health. And that means that it's not super accurate. So it is actually a guess. So there's a degree of error, and that's where some of these problems come from. So their system uses this ultrasound to basically be way more accurate with the analysis of the state of charge and state of health for the batteries. And that it's, amazing what they're able to do. And they're basically saying that they have a couple of nice charts. And again, ultrasound is sound waves. So they basically, shoot the sound waves through, and it helps determine the state of charge of the battery. A fully charged battery is stiffer. So the lithium ions that are in the anode and the speed of sound is faster when the battery is less charged. So the more empty it is, the faster it goes. I said that backwards, I think. The more full it is? Yes. The more charged it is, the faster the sound waves travel through the battery. Apologize for that correction.
No, I agree. I think what I liked in this article too is they called it the time of flight, which is the typical lithium-ion battery matrix. So I think that's what you're referring to when you said how quickly,
right,
sound goes through when you look at it, more full versus less full, and so it's super interesting. The other thing that they put in this article, Jeff, that I found, and I guess I didn't know, which is awesome. Hopefully, I learned something today. Hopefully, our listeners learned something today. Is it says EVs using NMC batteries have precise voltage measure, but slow SOC accuracy. Thus, as the system degrades over time, lowering SOC, the high precision voltage measurement is rendered meaningless. And then it says ESS solutions using lithium iron phosphate batteries have both low accuracy and low precision. This caused by voltage flatness characteristics of lithium iron phosphate batteries' state of charge and their reliance on predetermined lookup tables to determine state of health, SOH, that's what SOH stands for. Sorry if I didn't define that earlier. Yeah. So great article. So if you want to check this out, pretty easy for our listeners if you were going on the web to look at this. It's Titan AES. So it's the word titanaes.com/sound-science. So pretty easy to look at. And I think they just do.
I love that play on words too.
Yeah, sound science.
It's
good.
Sound science about the science of sound.
The science of sound and how it applies to batteries. And we obviously, when we talked with Sean back in the day, this was something that we could see where his vision was going for the company and where this is going, and the ability to put these on board so that maybe in the future your car manufacturer has this mini ultrasound that's on there and literally telling you about where your batteries are at. We've said how the longevity of EVs continues to grow more than what people actually thought, but I can see this as just helping to improve this over and over and over again. And it's better for the environment, right? If you think about it, because if you're getting more accurate measurements, you're using the battery in a better way, the computer's working better, and then you're not wasting electricity,
Oh, yeah.
Or money too. I mean, the amount of dollars that are wasted for usable kilowatt hours that are out there, not only in you'd think not only in EVs, but you would think, as we talked about earlier in the show, these home battery solutions to be able to have and know where things are at. I mean, I love my EcoFlow app. It tells me all the things, but what if it told me a little bit more accuracy about charge cycles,
Oh,
where
for
these
sure.
things are at.
Well, and predicted lifespan, right? I mean, I think that's the big thing that we care about. We talk about charge cycles all the time, but it also depends on your usage patterns and
Oh yeah,
all that. So
absolutely, and they're doing a better job of that. And I guess what I mean by a better job is, if I look at EcoFlow and where they're at in terms of their interfaces, it's starting to tell you a little bit more information. In fact, I'm sorry if I'm sitting there in terms of looking at this. I can look at the specifications of some of these, and I could swear that it told me somewhere a little bit more about where some of my batteries were at. And I think it depends on the firmware updates that you have on the batteries and different things that are on there. But it's fascinating to me how they look at all the data that's coming in, and continue. The technology gets better. Battery management systems gets better. Let me see, energy management. Yeah, so some of the newer ones, if I look at my River 2, I can set that discharge limit. I can set my charge limit. And I know personally, if I'm improving that management, I don't let that battery get too low, and then I don't let it kind of get too high, I'm going to increase the lifespan of that battery. Even though, yeah, it's a lithium iron phosphate, I'm going to get a good amount of time out of it. But, I still want to do what's good for the environment as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that reminds me, and almost all EV manufacturers now, as we've seen, they've started to talk about this more as you see EVs being described, right, for sale or whatever, that they give you the absolute size of the battery, but then they say how much usable battery there is, and part of that is to maintain that lifespan of those batteries.
Oh, absolutely, and I think we've said too with some of these batteries that they're going in and not truly telling you how much capacity is on the vehicle versus telling you how much, quote unquote, the way they believe they put it is usable capacity there is on the vehicle. And even the new EcoFlow, I don't know if I'd show you this since I got the River 2, but it has something now that's backup reserve that I can turn on. And it says setting a higher level of backup reserve always allows you to have more power for outages, while lower level means making more use of solar power. Battery is charged from solar when battery level is high, higher than backup reserve ratio, AC charging disabled. The battery won't get charged from AC until it gets lower than the battery backup reserve ratio. So they kind of have some, and I think we said this earlier on way back with Battery Day, or I think, honestly, this was our episode that we talked to Dave regarding his Porsche and how we were comparing Tesla to Porsche and saying how one was a battery company and technology company making cars versus a car company making battery powered cars. And the technology that's there to manage the battery and everything is more important. I mean, I give the example of how my dad's car that I have, the 1970 Cutlass, there's no computer there.
No.
The most computer is the radio that's in the car that was like an upgraded one that I can plug my iPod into. That's the most computer that's on that vehicle on board and does not affect the other systems in the vehicle. But now you can't get away from the standpoint of having a computer that's managing your vehicle, whether that's an ICE vehicle or that's a battery-powered vehicle. And there's good to that. But obviously there's some inherent risk with that if the software doesn't behave appropriately.
Right. But I mean, I think the, fuel injection and the advancements in, computer-based control of the ignition systems is where a lot of the fuel savings comes from, right? They're optimizing the burn of that fuel.
Oh, completely. In fact, I'll talk about our social. If you want to follow us, Twitter at I Like Batteries, or you can do I.like.batteries on Instagram, or you could go I Like Batteries podcast on Facebook. And if you did that and you checked out a photo that I posted on I Like Batteries Instagram, my Honda Insight, I actually got over 100 miles on a little bit of a shorter trip in my hybrid. So obviously it's a hybrid. There's a small battery in there to be able to use, but sometimes I like to gamify this and to be able to drive in a way that is great So getting over 100 miles, the system does that. And oftentimes if I set my adaptive cruise control for the car as well, it's managing those pieces too. And
sure.
It's, whether it gets closer to a vehicle and it throws on the regenerative braking, because obviously it's going to slow that down. I'm getting a charge from that even on the highway. Right. So I think technology and getting better and better, that's helping. That's why all these things are good for us. And hopefully, if you didn't know about these things, you enjoyed our show and you got some education about some of these things, and maybe you even got yourself a tax credit if you were looking to do this before the end of the year. So hopefully that's good. But hopefully your battery management system stays well, you stay fully charged, or at least 80%, and have an awesome week.
Talk to you soon.